So if you just logged in and you want to ask a question and you have not already, you can go to premiercollectibles.com/Zerlina and you can purchase a signed book that I'm going to be signing for the next 30 to 45 minutes here on Facebook. And also, you can submit questions there if you have a question, for me about anything in particular, or even if you have a question about the end of white politics. Maybe you've read it, maybe you have the audio book. Maybe you are waiting for it to come from Amazon. You just got it and you're not sure if you're going to crack it open. Maybe you're reading, you're finishing up another book and you're getting ready to start this weekend. I don't know, but I'm happy to answer your questions. So please submit premiercollectibles.com/Zerlina Maxwell. So let me just show you here what's happening. I have a full stack of books. I have many piles. And so what I'm going to be doing today is signing the books and answering these questions. Hi, Krishan. Hi, Karen. How are you? Oh, thank you. Yes, I have a Shirley Chazome 72. I thought it was quite appropriate for the live book signing, particularly because my vision for the end of white politics definitely has to do with more women and Black women and marginalized people running for president and trying to replace those who have been the traditional faces of leadership in the past. Hello, everybody. Hi, Rebecca. That's my sister. She just logged in. And I think my parents, if they figured this out, are also watching. So let me go through some of the questions as I sit and sign these books. I've been debating all day about how I wanted to actually sign it. If I wanted to write like Fight the Power or something on the inside, but I'm resisting that impulse and I'm just going to keep it simple. But let me go through some of these questions. I have a few that you guys have already submitted, so thank you for submitting your questions. If you go to premiercollectibles.com/Zerlina, you can submit a question. And before we start, something I tweeted is getting people, some people thought it was pretty funny. I'm not married and don't ask me, please. So any questions about the book, but not about that or anything like that. Hello, Sharon. Hi, how are you? Okay, let's go through questions here. So who or what is first in your life? I don't know. I mean, I would say that the person that is first in my life, it's not a person, it's more so just my family is the most important thing for me. And then my closest friends. Um, and that's that. It's not much more than that. Um, okay, let me go to the next questions. That was kind of an easy one. It's like my family's the most important, right? That's pretty easy. Okay, so let's go to the next question here. Was there anything that surprised you during the research process for this book? Surprised me. Well, I think that one of the things people don't realize when you're writing a book, and I mean, Lord knows I had no idea because I've never written a book before, my first time, is that you kind of rewrite the book when you're editing it. And most people who have written books now have shared that information with me. But I think, you know, the most surprising part of the process for me was that you can always edit some more, even though you think you're done. Not that I ever think I'm done, but, to the point of sort of just going and going and going, you're like, no, I think it's perfect. And then no, it can always be made better. So that's always a good thing. So let me actually sign some books because that's why you all are here. And if you want a signed book, you can go to premiercollectibles.com/Zerlina. If you want to ask a question, you can go there. And then if anybody asks questions in the comments, I believe there is somebody here to at least add them into my queue so that I'm able to answer them. So was there anything that surprised you during the research process? Well, I told you the editing process was pretty surprising, but I would say that during the research process, um, I think the information about the political leanings and the demographics of Generation Z was very illuminating for me. Number one, most people, have heard of the boomer generation, and they know that they're a very impactful voting bloc. And there's always been talk in the past few cycles about millennials. Um, but millennials and Generation Z combined, they're more diverse and larger individually, actually, but certainly combined, than the baby boomer generation. And what the Teen Vogue Ipsos polling data that I talk about in the hashtag kids chapter shows is that the the diversity of these generation, um, leads them to have more progressive positions on policy, and that then leads, creates a reality where they are more likely to support Democratic candidates. That doesn't mean that they want to be labeled as Democrats, but they are more progressive in some of their stances, particularly on social issues like marriage equality and racial justice. And so, as we sit here and we watch people, in the streets fighting for the rights for everyone, it's important to understand that that's in part because of the generational shift that we're going through. So let me keep signing because I'm supposed to be signing and all I do is talk. Next question. Why did you write the book? Well, I start in the beginning of the book talking about how I went to a panel at a conference called Politicon, and it's a bipartisan conference, and it's the kind of conference where people wear costumes, like at Comic-Con, right? Cosplay. I'm really a sci-fi nerd if you can't tell. And so I'm all into Comic-Con. Like actually recently I just moderated a cool panel about the history of Saturday morning cartoons. That was dope. Um, and so I'm the kind of person that is all about cosplay, but not at a political conference because that's not what politics is about. It's not a game and it's not science fiction in any way, even though it feels like we're living through some sort of dystopian era in this moment. But Politicon is a little bit of a circus because it's bipartisan. So you have MAGA hats and you Tommy Lauren and Dennis Rodman, but then you also have, you know, better known people like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and Ann Coulter, and those kind of folks. And then, you have the progressive James Carville. I went a couple years in a row. A lot of the MSNBC folks go. And so it's the kind of thing where it's kind of equal opportunity because it's bipartisan. But the panel that I participated in, which is what is really the setup and introduction of the book, is it was a hard moment. It was a panel where everybody kind of got together and they were trying to, um, get us to point fingers and say, you know, this is why the Democrats lost, and sort of point fingers at other segments of the Democratic Party. Um, I'm not really about that life. I mean, I think that any reason you can cite about why you think Hillary Clinton was defeated in 2016 is likely correct, because there's a lot of reasons. So it's not just one reason, and we all have to sort of take responsibility for the fact that maybe, no one of us did everything we possibly could have done to ensure a different outcome, in addition to the fact that there was cheating going on that we weren't aware of in the moment. Well, some people were. We knew Russia was doing something. We just didn't know the extent to which they were doing that. So I think, in hindsight and looking back at that panel and why I wanted to write this book, it was because people were booing at my assertion that Black women are a critical part of the base of the Democratic Party. We're the heart and the soul. Our turnout rate is 60%, and we bring the whole household and the church pew and the community, and we bring everybody out. And so we would like to be spoken to with a level of respect that I definitely didn't get in that panel room or subsequently in the next year at the same panel at Politicon in Nashville. But certainly going forward, as we elect more members of Congress, like Representative Ayanna Pressley and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, yes, I'm talking about the squad. I think we need to expand the spectrum of concern and who is centered and whose concerns are centered and whose voices are loudest. On our side of the political spectrum, that's true writ large, and I talk a bit about how that's true of the entire country. But for the most part, I really think that that's true also of the progressive left. And so we have to do the work on our side as well. And that's really why I wanted to write this book, because I think that at least in terms of progressives, we can have a more open mind in terms of how we confront our own biases on our side. So let me just keep going here with these questions. I have to say, it is a little bit hard to sign and talk at the same time. I've never done this before, so just bear with me. What other questions do we have? Okay. Do you prefer writing over being an analyst or vice versa? That's a really good question, because for a long time, I really just was a writer. I went to law school and then I became a writer. I started blogging on progressive blogs and feminist blogs. And my first blog I wrote on was called the Urban Politico. I did it with a couple other folks, one of the people I went to law school with, and then a couple other people that worked on the Obama campaign. And after that, I went to a blog, feminist blog that you might know, called Feministing, with my current best friend for life, Samita Mukhopadhyay. She's the executive editor of Teen Vogue, and they're killing it in terms of coverage. So if you're not familiar with Teen Vogue and how they are killing the game, get into it. So I was primarily a writer for a while. I started doing radio, and then I wanted to be on TV. I watched a lot of cable news. I talk back to the TV, as so many of us do, right? When you watch cable news and somebody says something that you don't like, and I knew I could do it, right? You see people do something, maybe I saw Donna Brazile or Melissa Harris Perry or Joy Reid, and I was like, I can do that. I can do that. In my head, I would say things that then would be, 2 minutes later, a commentator would say it. And I was like, see, that's how I know that I could do this, because I'm already sort of thinking, like an analyst. And a lot of my writing, as far as you feel like your writing can go, and this is different than sort of thinking through it in terms of whether it be a book or not. But I think in terms of, getting your message across to a large group, a large audience, so that you can really change hearts and minds. Writing is one way to do it, and books are an amazing way to do it, but sometimes you have to do both. You have to sort of be on TV, and you also have to write. So it's like, for every article I wrote, I wanted to go and talk about it to millions of more people, because then you can even get more people to embrace the ideas that you're talking about. So for me, I don't think I have a preference. Being on TV is a lot easier than writing a book or writing an article. But at the same time, it's not. So I'm going to explain what I mean. So sometimes people say, how are you so good on TV? Or if they're trying to compliment me and say that I am good on TV, and in which case you're free to disagree. But I always say that the reason why I'm good at something is because I practice. And so for anyone out there who wants to become a better writer, if you want to become a commentator, if you want to get into journalism, if you want to get into politics, work on a campaign, you have to practice. You have to get experience. You have to volunteer. A lot of people misunderstand what television commentary is, and they assume that anybody they see on TV doing television commentary is rich. I did television commentary for many, many, many years for no money because I believed that the platform is a privilege and it was important to utilize that. And so, but that gave me all those years to practice. So I think it was really important to get all of those years of practice. If anybody has any questions, you can go to premiercollectibles.com/Zerlina and you can ask questions. You can buy a book, and it'll be one of the ones that I am signing currently. So you'll get my nice little signature in there, and that's really exciting. So let's keep going through these questions. I will keep going. I'm going to go for about 15 to 20 more minutes. So if you have a question, go to premiercollectibles.com/Zerlina, and I will answer them live on the stream as I continue to sign books. Okay, let's keep going. I am a middle school teacher. What words of wisdom would you share with my 8th grade students? Oh, okay, this is fun. Okay, so I assume that if you're in 8th grade, you're on summer vacation. So it's July, and you're probably pretty frustrated with the fact that you're inside in quarantine, or maybe you can go out a little bit, but not much because, it's still very much a pandemic, even though they're acting like it's not. So I would say that you can find a way to volunteer on a campaign. I like to tell a story about my first, it wasn't even on the Obama campaign because it was really before I left for Virginia to become a field organizer. And so it was so funny. I get there to my first day volunteering, and I'm still in New Jersey at this point. And the person who was in charge that day was 17 years old. So she has the clipboard, so you can imagine she's signing people and she's in charge. She's 17. And I remember rather naively asking her, "Why are you here? You can't even vote." And she looked at me so seriously and earnestly and said, "I have to live in the country though." And I was like, "Oh my God, she's right." And then she said the more important piece, not only do I have to live in the country, but if I vote, or even if I could vote, if I was 18 and I could vote, that's one vote. Okay, it's one vote. If I come here on a Saturday and I sign up 50 people and I register them to vote and ensure that they turn out in the election, that's 50 votes to my one vote, or that's 100 votes to my one vote. Every single person I sign up potentially could be an additional vote for the candidate that I support. So my advice to the 8th graders: virtual organizing, voter registration. And you're not too young to register other people to vote. And that's a really good way to feel like you're making an impact in your community and in the election, even though you're not old enough to vote. I also say that campaign experience is the best real world life and work experience you can get. So if you want to start volunteering and getting involved in your community, volunteering in this moment takes a lot of different forms. And I really think that working on political campaigns is a form of engagement and activism that people don't always think of first because, they think about protesting, they think about, petitions, they think about running for office themselves, maybe, but they don't necessarily think about the fact that they can work on a campaign and actually contribute that way. So, you can always register 50 voters to your one vote, and then you get 50 votes for your candidate instead of the one. That's my best advice to young people. Okay. Are you concerned about voter suppression in the upcoming election? Absolutely. Very much so. I feel as though not just that voter suppression is an issue in the upcoming election, but that it's an issue that we can still rectify in this election if we right now call our congresspeople to ensure that the funding necessary to scale up and implement the mail-in voting system in November is in the next package. And that's how we can, one thing we all can do to ensure that the voter suppression that they will do, because my entire book is premised upon the idea that we are emerging into a place in the United States where people of color will be a majority of the voting population and electorate, and Republicans are acting like they know that too. And so voter suppression is a very big problem in the election. And I think that we should be aware of it, and we shouldn't shy away from it, and we shouldn't deny that it's happening or not talk about it because we think that talking about it will make people afraid to vote. I think people don't need a reason to go outside and vote, more than the fact that you're voting for somebody who will be delivering the vaccine to your child at CVS. And I would like that person to be someone other than the current occupants of the White House, because if he's the person that's in charge of distributing the vaccine, I do not have faith that we will get it in any orderly fashion. I think I say that and everybody understands what I'm saying. So I'm almost done. I am very concerned about voter suppression. Let me keep going here. We're almost through with the questions. What is what motivates you? Oh, I like this question. Goals, hitting them, meeting them, achieving them, figuring out what they are, and then making them harder, and then trying to reach them anyway. That motivates me. But a lot of the times, that's sort of my own personal goals. What motivates my work is the idea that if there's a problem happening around me, if there's something unjust happening around me, that I am motivated to change it. I believe that I want to be the change. I want to change injustice. And, one of my heroes, obviously Shirley Chisholm, one of everyone's heroes should be, but one of my heroes, but also Rosa Parks. And Rosa Parks always talked about how she'd rather call something out and say it's not okay than to just be abused and discriminated against and not be allowed to say that it's wrong and that she's not okay with it. And that is my worldview. I've always been this way. When I was telling a friend earlier today that when I was 7 years old, somehow I was still a Democrat. No one told me. I think my dad voted for George Bush, and I told him that was a bad idea at 7. I don't know. Nobody told me. I knew that one side, whether or not I saw it on TV, and I thought that basically what it was is, you know, the rhetoric or what they were talking about resonated with me more. I know that now when I watch the Democratic convention, I'm like, okay, yep, these are my people. I don't know if you guys feel that way too sometimes, but I think that, I've always been motivated by making the world fairer for everyone. I know life's not fair, but I don't like it when it's like that. So that motivates me. Okay, keep going. What is the funniest thing you've had someone ask you during your career? A lot of people ask me if I'm married, and I sort of tweeted about that. Please don't ask me that. That's not what this is about. Often when women are presenting on any topic in the, under God's green earth, we ask them if they are married, even when they're at work or when they're being professionals. We should stop doing that. So maybe that's not even a funny example, but it is an example of things people ask a lot, and it's very weird. because it's really not anybody's business. And also, I wrote a book about politics. I don't know why you need to know like anything like that about me or anything like that about anyone. Um, I'm done signing all of the books, which means that I can go through the questions a little bit faster. So let me move the camera in a little bit so I can see a little bit better. Who was your most exciting and interesting interview? Oh, that's so hard to answer because I have had so many cool interviews. So I don't know if you guys know, but in addition to MSNBC, I also am a radio host. So I am the senior director of progressive programming at SiriusXM Radio, and I host a morning show on the Progress Channel called Signal Boost with my co-host and partner in feminism, Jess McIntosh. She's on Twitter at Jess_MC. She's on Facebook as well. So search for her, follow her. And, essentially, we get the opportunity to interview a lot of our heroes, not just in politics, but also in pop culture. So, we've interviewed some pretty neat people. We've interviewed Speaker Pelosi. We've interviewed Chelsea Clinton. I've interviewed Hillary Clinton. That was a pretty fun and cool interview as well. Most interesting. I really enjoyed the interview that I had with Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us. It was just a really interesting conversation about how, as a male ally of women in the Me Too era, in the sort of the post world we're in now, and how he works as a male ally to create a safer work environment for his female colleagues on set. I thought that was so interesting. So that was a really, really good conversation. I really loved all the women from Scandal that came through. That's a great show. I haven't interviewed Kerry Washington. I would love to one day. Um, who else? Kamala Harris is amazing. In person, she is everything as fierce as you can imagine. She's somebody who looks you deep in the eye, and she she looked me in the eye and she told me she intended on winning the election. Like, we know how it turned out, but I've never seen a black woman. I don't know that I've ever seen a black woman with that level of conviction in my entire life, like in the flesh, right? You see black women everywhere all the time that are extremely confident in their own fields, but I've never met one running for president before, right? So then seeing one run for president and then also, have that level of confidence to say, I'm going to win, right? That was a moment. So that was a really cool interview we did at SiriusXM. The Nancy Pelosi interview was also really exciting because she's fierce. You don't get to be that powerful in the government of the United States as a woman unless you are pretty fierce. But you also have to be prepared and on point all the time. And she is that. Every time I talk to her, she just has the capacity to understand the facility with the issues and what's going on and exactly how many seats you need to win back the majority and how you're going to do that and what the percentages are and what districts we're focusing on. I mean, she is extremely adept and good at her job, and that's why she's so demonized by the right. So those were the ones that came to mind first. The interviews that I really would like to do before maybe the end of the year, since it might be a little easier since it's all remote now. I want to interview Michelle Obama so bad. It's so ridiculous. So I'm just going to put that out there in the universe. And I believe that if you speak it into existence, it will come true. So I want to interview Barack and Michelle Obama. How would you summarize the book? Okay. I would summarize the book saying it this way. By the year 2045, Pew Research predicts that white voters will be a minority of the American electorate. That will have a transformational impact on our politics. And Republicans are already behaving as if they know that So now Democrats need to start behaving as if they know that. And also that they know that our base and the coalition of voters that come out to vote for Democrats are in the groups that will make up that emerging majority of voters who are not white. That's the summary of the book. And so we've had white, focused in white identity-based politics be the center of our conversations. We've had white male voters be the focus of our conversations. And Donald Trump exploited that in 2016. And as I sit here now, we're going through a reckoning and we're in pandemic. And I'm smiling because it seems like a lot of things are coming together and colliding, but that's not good. So I'm just smiling because it's a habit. What do you think of Kanye West running? I really would prefer that he not. I don't like him at all. And I find this entire thing in conversation very annoying because I think that there are very serious issues at stake, and it's clear that he, for one, is, I think, perhaps trying to get some attention, and instead of, really trying to contribute. Okay, let's keep going. If you pick the next president of the United States, who would you pick and why? Joe Biden? Is that the answer, right? I mean, it's the easy one, right? That's where we are. Okay, there's only a few. Whoa, okay. I think more people submitted questions. So I'm still going. I'm still trying to plug through. I'm going to do 3 more minutes. So I'm going to answer one more question. What's the biggest obstacle to achieving a dream that you've encountered, and how can that be overcome? I like this question. I like this question because I have been through a lot of obstacles in my life. I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and I have experienced trauma. And so I know what it's like, especially in this moment of pandemic, to sort of feel the trauma in your body and in your nervous system and try to, go through every day with all of that. And so I think one of the things you can do to overcome that is to give yourself a little grace and know that it's okay. You can get a very good therapist, and if you're in quarantine and you can't go outside, that requires you trying to find a therapist remotely or through an app like Talkspace. I highly recommend doing that. I also think that, overcoming obstacles is about understanding that everyone has something they have to overcome. Um, and that even as I sit here and I'm surrounded by books that I wrote, and everybody sees me on cable news and they think everything is like perfect, everybody has stuff that they're working on, and that is okay. And so for me, I look at, I want to achieve certain things, and I try to set my mind to it, and I try to break them down into little pieces, and I try to go piece by piece towards that goal every single day. And usually that works effectively. So, I would say biggest obstacle is, life sometimes throws you a curveball, and you sort of have to pick up the pieces. And I've done that. So many other people have done that and are heroes because of it. And so I think, much of that can be overcome by just waking up every morning and showing up, and trying to, and when I mean show up, sort of mentally, not physically, show up for yourself every day, because it's just temporary, whatever you're going through, even pandemic. I said I would go for 3 more minutes, but I do want to answer this one question I really like, which is, have you found any new quarantine snacks? Okay, I have a really weird admission to make. I really like So there's these things that you can get at the grocery store. And like, I didn't even know this existed until I came here to Virginia, because I don't really go into the grocery store in New York City. You know how you do like, you do Uber Eats. I'm a very like single busy person. So, and I don't cook. It's fine that I don't cook, but I don't. And my cat bit me. Stop. Please stop. Please stop. Okay. One more minute here. Quarantine snacks. They're called mug treats, I think. And it's like you put cake batter in some water in a cup and put it in the microwave for like 45 seconds, and it makes a cupcake in a cup. And then they give you icing with it. And then if you put ice cream, trust me on this, in one that is a brownie, that's a quarantine snack. But make sure you did your workout first, because you want to be able to have your quarantine snack and just not even care about it. And I don't count calories or anything like that. This is not fitness channel. All I'm saying is if you move your body every day, you feel better mentally. But then you can also have ridiculously unhealthy things like mug treats from time to time in quarantine, because life is short, and God knows we know it now. Okay, let's see what else we got here before we finish. I'm gonna do one more. I said I was gonna do only one more, but I'm gonna give you a bonus. Okay, what do you think? Let's see. What's Do I feel overall the country is heading in the right direction? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think the people and the voters are aware of that. And that's why we're in the streets. That's why we're organizing. And hopefully we can turn the ship and pivot and go in the right direction. Because right now in pandemic, what it feels like is like we are on the Titanic and we are going towards the iceberg, and everybody sees it except we don't have a captain. That's what it feels like. Like it's like a captainless Titanic headed for the iceberg. So we as the people can turn this ship. So that's what I think about the country. We are not headed in the right direction, but we certainly can shift and pivot. Sorry, my cat is underneath my feet and he's biting my leg. Um, okay, guys, I signed all the books. I hope I answered all of your questions. And I hope that if you have any more questions, you wouldn't hesitate to reach out. I'm on Twitter at Zerlina Maxwell. The book is The End of White Politics. So make sure you go buy that. Anywhere you buy books, independent bookstores have it. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target. One of the cooler messages I got since it came out on Tuesday was my therapist. Again, go to therapy. My therapist said she was proud of me because she saw my book in Target. So, we've come a long way. And so I think End of White Politics, I hope you enjoyed the book, enjoyed this live signing, and I hope everybody has a safe evening. If you have any questions, like I said, you can reach out to me at Zerlina Maxwell on Twitter, Instagram, or you can message me here on Facebook. Everybody have a great day.